On 14th of November 2025, Bihar delivered a decisive verdict. After a fierce campaign, one message echoed across the state: stability, women's empowerment, welfare and delivery. The National Democratic Alliance, led by the Bharatiya Janata Party and Janata Dal United, swept to a commanding majority, redefining Bihar's political landscape. Namaskar and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Rajiv Kumar Singh. In this edition of History Behind Headlines, we decode the Bihar Assembly Elections 2025. How did NITISH Kumar, 2 decades in office, turn anti-incumbency into pro-incumbency? How did the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the BJP power the NDA past the 200-seat mark? And what caused the collapse of the Mahagathbandhan? We also look ahead to a state whose accelerating development will not only shape its future, but also drive India's next growth surge. Bihar 2025, a mandate for the future. Let us begin.
नीतीश कुमार सत्य निष्ठा से
प्रतिज्ञान करता हूं कि मैं विधि द्वारा स्थापित
भारत के संविधान के प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा और निष्ठा रखूंगा.
NITISH Kumar, sworn in as the Chief Minister of Bihar for the 10th time, a record in itself. The NDA's victory in the 2025 Bihar Assembly election was nothing short of a strong reaffirmation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's formidable leadership at the centre and NITISH Kumar's consistent administrative performance in Bihar. The people of Bihar have spoken loudly, clearly and decisively. The 2025 mandate is more than a verdict. It is a reshaping of the state's political DNA. In a land where caste once defined politics, voters have signalled a new priority: performance over identity. In this election, women outvoted men. Welfare transfers reached the grassroots and years of governance by NITISH Kumar bore fruit in a landslide.
मैं एनडीए की पूरी टीम को भी बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं. नीतीश जी ने शानदार नेतृत्व दिया. भारतीय जनता पार्टी के प्रदेश अध्यक्ष दिलीप जायसवाल जी, सम्राट चौधरी जी, विजय कुमार सिन्हा जी, उन्होंने लगातार मेहनत की. हमारे जीतन राम मांझी जी, कुशवाहा जी, चिराग जी ने बहुत बेहतरीन लीडरशिप दिखाई है.
But beyond the victory, a deeper story was told of transformation, ambition, and a state standing at the cusp of change. This was more than a win. It was a landslide. The BJP became the single largest party in Bihar for the first time in its history, while NITISH Kumar's JDU nearly doubled its seat count from its disappointing 2020 performance. All NDA partners, including the Lok Janshakti Party Ram Vilas, the Hindustani Awam Morcha Secular and the Rashtriya Lok Morcha, all gained from a united, disciplined alliance.
साथियों, बिहार के लोगों ने विकसित बिहार के लिए मतदान किया है. बिहार के लोगों ने समृद्ध बिहार के लिए मतदान किया है. मैंने चुनाव प्रचार के दौरान बिहार की जनता से रिकॉर्ड वोटिंग के लिए आग्रह किया था और बिहार के लोगों ने सारे रिकॉर्ड तोड़ दिए। मैंने बिहार के लोगों से एनडीए को प्रचंड विजय दिलाने का आग्रह किया था। बिहार की जनता ने मेरा ये आग्रह भी माना।
For the RJD, the fall was dramatic. Once the center of opposition politics in Bihar, it slipped to third place with just 25 seats. A sharp reminder of how decisively the state's political landscape has shifted. As for the Congress, the less said the better. A party that once ruled Bihar for decades struggled even to touch double digits. The left parties too managed only 4 seats in total, reflecting a broader decline of ideological politics in this election. Perhaps the single most consequential story of this election was the rise of the Mahila factor. Early mornings at polling stations saw women, often with children, lining up patiently to cast their votes. Their participation was not just symbolic, it shaped the result.
आप सोचिए, महिलाओं का टर्नआउट पुरुषों से करीब 9% अधिक रहा। ये भी लोकतंत्र की विजय है। साथियों, बिहार के नतीजों ने फिर दिखाया है कि भारत के लोगों की आकांक्षाएं, उनकी एस्पिरेशंस कितनी ज्यादा है। भारत के लोग आज उन राजनीतिक दलों पर विश्वास करते हैं जो नेक नियत से लोगों की उन एस्पिरेशंस को पूरा करते हैं, विकास को प्राथमिकता देते हैं।
For the first time in Bihar's history, women turnout outstripped men by a wide margin. They shattered all previous turnout records. While the overall turnout stood at 67.13%, an extraordinary 71.78% of women cast their votes, nearly 9 percentage points higher than the 62.8% turnout among men. The NDA received the lion's share of women's votes. This marks a historic first for the state and signals the potential to transform Bihar's political landscape. Why did millions of Bihari women turn out in force? It was about benefits that touched their lives.
Naturally, the benefit women got just before the election, that also weighed heavily in favor of the NDA. And plus, it was a kind of protest vote also, especially among women, because the kind of behavior of the crowd in RJD leader Tejasvi Prasad Yadav's meeting, it also sent a wrong message among women, because most of the crowd behavior was of youth, and they were not so properly behaved compared to the NDA.
The NDA's welfare architecture was not built overnight. Over years, state and central schemes converged in ways that reached deeply into poor, rural and women-dominated households. Under the Mukhyamantri Mahila Rozgar Yojana, nearly 1 crore women received direct cash transfers of approximately 10,000 rupees each, injecting close to 10,000 crore directly into household economies across Bihar. Through Kanya Utthan and expanded girl scholarship schemes, the government disbursed over 6,000 crore rupees to support girls' education, raising school retention rates and pushing female enrollment in classes 9 to 12 above 70% for the first time. Enhanced Social Security Pension Scheme. The state government significantly increased the monthly pension for all eligible elderly individuals, widowed women and differently abled people from rupees 400 to rupees 1100. This measure directly benefited over 1.1 crore beneficiaries. Free electricity scheme. The Bihar government announced and began implementing a policy to provide nearly free electricity to all domestic consumers, specifically the first 125 units of power free of cost. On to the schemes of the central government. Pradhan Awas Yojana Gramin. There is a cumulative target to build more than 50,12,000 Pakka houses in rural Bihar under PMAYG, out of which more than 49 lakh houses have already been sanctioned and over 38.39 lakh houses completed as on August 4, 2025, with nearly 70% of ownership titles issued in the names of women, one of the highest proportions in the country. Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana (PMUY). Under Ujjwala Yojana, as of April 1, 2025, over 1.16 crore connections were distributed to rural women in Bihar, with refill support schemes increasing active usage to over 80% of beneficiary households, dramatically reducing dependence on biomass. Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana (ABPMJAY). Bihar has achieved 100% coverage of eligible families under the Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, with almost 4 crore Ayushman cards issued in the state. The state's implementation of the scheme is reported to have saved beneficiaries over 1,000 crore rupees in healthcare expenses in just 1 year. PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana (PMGKAY). The revamped PDS is integrated with the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, with 23.39 lakh new ration card beneficiaries added in Bihar since COVID. The National Food Security Act 2013 now provides coverage for a total of about 8.71 crore people, including about 25 lakh Antyodaya Anna Yojana AAY families in Bihar. These schemes ensure uninterrupted nutritional support to nearly the entire eligible population. The funds for the state-related schemes were transferred via direct benefit transfer before the elections got announced, which resonated strongly with women voters and pensioners. This significantly boosted female voter turnout, a crucial factor in the NDA's success. A second reason behind the NDA's massive victory was cohesion. Unlike in 2020, when the seat sharing fractured and Chirag Paswan's LJP ran separately, 2025 saw a disciplined, united NDA. BJP and JDU coordinated efficiently. Their campaign machinery was aligned. Votes flowed between allies rather than being split. Smaller NDA partners pitched in at the micro level, mobilizing local cadres and ensuring turnout. This cohesion was not merely tactical, it was an organizational discipline, and it paid dividends in almost every constituency. In Bihar's political narrative, few figures loom as large as NITISH Kumar. For nearly 2 decades, he has projected himself as the architect of good governance, the man who would end the so-called Jungle Raj. Under his watch, parts of Bihar's infrastructure were rebuilt, rural roads proliferated, education and health became priorities, Panchayati Raj institutions were strengthened. Critics, of course, remained. Unemployment persisted, industrialization lagged, and Bihar's per capita income remained low. But in 2025, for many voters, Nitish's brand of stability and delivery proved deeply resonant. His long shadow became an asset.
People in general believe that, Nitish can deliver. He has delivered. So, and as far as the per capita income is concerned, Bihar was a laggard state before 2000 year. So now, as the government also claims that now the infrastructure is ready and the Bihar is in a takeoff stage. So that was more convincing to the electorate, I think, than the poll promises by the Congress or the RJD.
If the NDA's unity was its strength, the opposition's disunity became its undoing. The RJD-led Mahagathbandhan failed to offer a credible or cohesive alternative. Infighting, weak grassroots organization and poor seat coordination blunted its challenge. Prashant Kishore, the celebrated election strategist, entered the arena with Jan Suraj, promising a new brand of politics. Yet, despite high visibility, padyatras and social media traction, the party failed to translate attention into votes. RJD, traditionally a strong Bihar-centric party, failed to expand its appeal. The Congress's vote base also remains weak after decades of decline. The Jan Suraj party, led by Prashant Kishore, despite high visibility on social media, could not win a single seat in the Bihar Assembly. With limited vote share and a weak ground organization, JSP ended up siphoning votes from the opposition in many constituencies rather than from the NDA. The result, a fragmented and weakened opposition, giving the NDA a much clearer path to victory.
The opposition struggled with seat share until the last moment. So, see, you can imagine what can be the situation when today, suppose is the last date of filing the nomination, and in the morning the candidate is being decided who will contest from where. And it resulted in friendly fights in more than 15 seats, I think.
Caste has defined Bihar's politics for decades, and yet in this election, its grip seemed to loosen. Welfare transfers, especially to women, bridged caste lines. When poor women, Dalit, backward caste, or from the upper caste backgrounds received benefits that mattered, the old social alignments blurred. Political experts argue that 2025 may be remembered as the election of cross-caste welfare politics, where caste identity was fused or even overtaken by the material experience of governance.
People across the caste line voted for NDA, and this is reflecting in the mandate, because in just MY combination or on the basis of 2-3 caste combination, you can't win such a massive mandate.
Was the caste barrier truly broken? Not entirely, but it was bent in ways Bihar hadn't seen before. Bihar entered the 2025 mandate with a mixed yet steadily evolving economic landscape, one marked by strong growth in certain sectors and persistent gaps in others. The numbers reveal a story of progress, but also underline the urgent structural challenges that demand attention. Under NITISH Kumar's governance, economic growth has clearly accelerated. Bihar's GSDP expanded by nearly 9.1% in 2023-24, while nominal growth crossed 14% during the same period, according to the CAG. However, it is equally important to acknowledge that Bihar's low economic base can sometimes present a skewed picture of growth if not interpreted with the right context and depth of analysis. More meaningful is how the growth translates to people. Per capita income has climbed from rupees 8,528 in 2004-05 to an estimated rupees 66,828 in 2023-24 at nominal terms. Yet, even today, in 2025, Bihar stands far below the national average, only about 30% of it as per Niti Aayog data. Like in other parts of the nation, Poverty has declined in Bihar too, from a cripplingly high 51.9% in 2015-16. The poverty rate dropped to roughly 33.8% by 2021-22. These are not just numbers. These are millions of people lifted out of extreme deprivation. What is unfolding in Bihar is more than just a statistical change. It is a structural economic shift. According to the Bihar Economic Survey 2024-25, the primary sector, agriculture, now contributes just 19.9% to the state's GSDP, while the secondary or industrial sector has risen to 21.5%, overtaking farming for the first time. This isn't just broad-based growth, it is investment-led change. The state has put forward rupees 75,294 crore in proposed industrial investment, and that is already fueling job creation. Investment in micro enterprises has soared by 135%, generating a 107% jump in employment, while large-scale units have seen a 131% rise in investment and 187% more jobs. Dig deeper into the industry and the story gets more interesting. Construction accounts for over 50% of the industrial economy, while manufacturing contributes 37%, and construction alone grew by 22% between 2021-22 and 22-23. Yet, the labor story is more complex. Just 5.7% of Bihar's workforce is employed in manufacturing. Almost half of the workers, around 49.6%, are still in agriculture, forestry and fishing, while 18.4% work in construction and 26% in services. An estimated 70 lakh Biharis work outside Bihar, sending back remittances that are critical for household survival. This is both a strength and a structural weakness, revealing the lack of adequate in-state employment. Manufacturing remains a weak pillar. Despite growth in food processing and textiles, manufacturing grew barely 3.2% in 2023-24, far below what a young state needs for job creation. At the same time, Bihar's agricultural strategy is evolving. The state's policy now prioritizes high-value crops like makhana, medical plants and fruits, and this is backed by surging crop production. Rice is up 21%, wheat by 10.7%. Bihar today is no longer just a land of fields. It is transforming, building factories, executing major infrastructure projects, and creating jobs beyond agriculture. The numbers suggest that an economic turnaround may be around the corner, and if the momentum continues, Bihar may well surprise the skeptics and rewrite its economic story. The road to Bihar's transformation, however, is far from smooth. It is strewn with potholes, each carrying its own scale of impact on the state's progress. Growth, while strong, carries its own set of challenges. Bihar's fiscal health is a growing concern. While welfare spending has surged, so has debt. If borrowing continues without a commensurate increase in revenue, capital expenditure, critical for infrastructure, may suffer. More worryingly, jobs are still lagging. In 2024, Bihar's unemployment stood at 6.7%, which was above the national level. Growth has largely come through GSDP numbers, but non-farm employment, especially in manufacturing and services, is not scaling fast enough. For a state with one of India's youngest populations, this is a bottleneck. Another challenge is demographic. The dependency ratio remains high. Many in the population depend on a smaller working age group, limiting how much growth per person can improve livelihoods.
And then there is urbanization. Bihar's cities lag behind in infrastructure and capacity, constraining how much industrial expansion they can absorb. Finally, not every district has shared equally in the growth story. The development is uneven, and bridging that gap is central to sustaining Bihar's upward arc. The 2025 verdict was not just an election, it was a strategic inflection point. With the NDA in power at both the centre and in Bihar, the state now has a rare alignment of political power and policy capability. This opens up the possibility of big-ticket investments, infrastructure projects and reforms that could convert Bihar's growing GSDP into sustainable economic transformation. Imagine modern industrial corridors weaving across Bihar's districts. Imagine well-planned urban centers with water, sanitation and digital infrastructure. Imagine women-led micro-enterprises driving rural economies. Imagine a young, skilled workforce powering service and manufacturing hubs. All within Bihar, without massive out-migration. This is the opportunity, but it will require focus, governance capacity and fiscal discipline. For NITISH Kumar, his 10th term has the promise of cementing his legacy. The challenge ahead is not just to govern, but to transform. For Tejasvi Yadav, once the youthful face of the opposition, he now faces a crossroads. Can he expand beyond his base, rebuild his party and craft a credible alternative? For Prashant Kishore, the strategist who entered as a change agent saw his party falter. His high visibility did not translate into seats. The question now is, was JSP a strategic mistake or a political experiment that fell short? Bihar's story has always been larger than itself. The state has birthed movements that shaped Indian democracy. The JP movement, the Mandal era, coalition experiments. In 2025, Bihar has offered a new narrative, a politics of governance and welfare, a politics where women, the poor and youth mattered not just in slogans but in seats. The stakes are high. If Bihar can translate this mandate into structural transformation, it could reshape not just its own future but India's.
The 2025 Bihar Assembly election was more than a political landslide. It was a moment of social affirmation. It can prove to be a turning point in governance, a powerful signal for India's democratic future. The challenge ahead is real, but so is the hope. Bihar has spoken. Now it must deliver on its promise. That is all we have in this program. Thanks for watching.
संसद टीवी के और भी प्रोग्राम्स देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल और हाँ, इन्हें लाइक और शेयर करना ना भूलें।